feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan your own hands can land.
Man, feeling well, man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
Yes, sir.
We got more than we can.
Already was high within San Antonio Winchester community, but the age group is getting younger. Children under the age of 18 being murdered in San Antonio has a high peak right now. So our goal is to catch the children.
You going hard, man. You going hard on that man today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? You got manufacturing right here, helping our young people despite all of the challenges in the city of Baltimore, right here on North Avenue.
Nah, it's really about the growth. Just knowing being there when they were down in Fort Covington and seeing how far it's grown. Like you said earlier, like getting the Soul Bay, you know, where we got the Soul Bay at the beginning, but now being able to, when I'm at Camden Yards, get it, or anytime I'm down at Harper Place to get it, and folks to not even know, but they gonna know now that like this is coming from young people in West Baltimore, right there in West Baltimore on North Avenue, where they think nothing great comes from, but they can see it with the young people.
If you work for it, it's only worth it if you work for it.
Here on the Miami, Mississippi, down right here in French Forward, beautiful town, just leaving Algiers, which is an update 10 years since Katrina. The news before. All right, y'all, this is what I came to New York for. Besides the Black Wall Street Awards, we're going in here and get some of this real good jerk chicken. Johnny Glover, out.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me.
But we need to feed our loved ones. DOCS needs to rescind this package policy program so that our loved ones are able to eat every day in that filthy facility.
We have some stars in the building.
I feel like no one takes.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it, they're winning for the long haul, baby. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. You know, I like the last part of that clip. Chu Smith say, there's some stars in the building. Anyway, today's guest, the one and only, straight out of Baltimore, not from New York, not from North. You from Baltimore?
Come on, Doni. You know my hometown is New York, Jamaica, Queens, man. But Baltimore is my home.
Jamaica, Queens. Okay, I just say I want to make sure I got it right. Jamaica, Queens. I've never been to Queens. I've been to Brooklyn, never been to Long Island, never been to Staten Island, been to Harlem, of course, Manhattan, been to Boogie Down Bronx. I was in Boogie Down Bronx. This is back in the 90s. I was in Co-op City.
Oh,
I said, these projects, man, I almost got beat up all the way back to my. He said, these ain't no damn projects. Yes, they is. You know, they not. I was like, okay, this Co-op City. These are condos. My bad. But I love New York City, man. I love Baltimore.
Yeah,
you got a Ravens hat on.
Of course, man. I got to represent. I apologize. I'm on my last day of vacation. I'm out of the country.
For what?
Hey, you're right.
Isn't that an important part of life? Taking a break.
It is. It is. It is. So I'll be back in Bmore tonight, but I'm still representing the Ravens hat right here.
If you were in New York, which team would you be with? The Jets, the Giants?
Oh man, I grew up in Queens, so it's like a rhetorical question there, man. It's the Mets, it's the Knicks, and the Jets. Die hard.
Okay. Believe it or not, in Little League, James Mosher Baseball, I played for the Mets, and we were the newest team in the league. And I think we won one game our first year.
Oh wow.
By the third year, we won the championship.
Oh wow. What position did you play? I didn't know you played ball.
Oh, baseball, that's my sport. Started off in left field. That's where they put everybody. You rode the bench, you play out in left field, you get 2 innings. They guaranteed 2 innings. And I had to bunt, man. I had to bunt for 2.5, 3 years. Bunt. But those were the fundamentals, because if you can lay down a bunt and get on base,
you're fast.
You might be able to steal a base, steal second.
That's right. That's right.
And ultimately score. But by the 4th and 5th year, I was pitching, catching, third base. I guess third base might have been the what I was best at, catching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hot corner. Yeah, that's the hot corner.
You get to see everything as catcher.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Pete Rose was one of my idols. Brooks Robinson, because Pete come all the way down. He get all up in your face.
You know what's crazy, Donnie? You're kind of doing some reminiscing for me, because my dad and I and mom used to watch baseball. My brothers also, and I really started getting into baseball in 1975. And if you remember, the World Series then was the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Boston Red Sox. Man, I was so fascinated with the way Louis Tiant pitched. Man, that twirled, tweaked his body, and man, I was just fascinated. And I just became fascinated with baseball since then.
He came all the way around with it.
He did.
And then Joe Morgan had that.
Joe Morgan had the twitch.
Yeah, the twitch. Dave Concepcion, Tony
Perez. Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, memories, great memories, man.
Well, I gotta share this with you since we're on baseball. We're gonna get to the business at hand.
Sure.
But probably my favorite baseball player that I ever saw, at least on television, was Reggie Jackson. But it wasn't until he went to New York that he became my favorite. So sometimes, not right now, because it would be politically incorrect and downright suicidal for me to be donning my Yankees cap and my 44 jersey. But Baltimore didn't embrace Reggie Jackson.
No.
They let him go. They wouldn't give him that Skrilla. He went up the road with Steinbrenner, and that's where he became Mr. October. And did you see that World Series game?
Of course.
That was the game of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mr. October. And, I recently saw a lot of his clips recently, and I, growing up being a big baseball fan, I wasn't a fan of Reggie Jackson at first until he came to the Yankees. And I always asked myself, my mom used to say the same thing too, why is he such an angry man? And it wasn't until recently that we saw those clips of what he went through as a young baseball player and the things that he was called. And that wasn't long ago. You know what I mean? So I have so much respect for him now, and I understood what he was going through in the midst of his career.
Speaking of New York City, I can't say that I was the biggest fan of Rudolph Giuliani. When he was mayor, he did some things. And if we're going to take race out of the equation, we're going to bring in Mr. Bonaparte.
Technical difficulties.
It's all good. Welcome to the show. Good morning, Mr. Bonaparte.
Good morning.
So, we're talking about New York City. Rudy Giuliani he became mayor, and he brought in this zero tolerance thing. Now, I remember, I'm not going to say I was a fan, but I will say I love the results. So walk me through this. He came in with the zero tolerance thing, and what I saw was a lot of black people getting arrested. I did see a change in the city afterwards, and I saw a cleaner city. That's what I saw. What do you recall?
Well, you're spot on when you say that, and I think his police chief commissioner at the time was Bratton, the famous Bratton, uh, who was a really good chief and started off in Boston somewhere and then ended up going to LA and then coming to New York. But you're right about zero tolerance. Here's the thing with it. It placed a severe disparity on the treatment of African Americans in New York and other cities that practice it. Of course, the violence went down because, everybody was these young men were being arbitrarily stopped on the street just because the way they looked or the way they appeared or, some of the streets that they were on. Of course, it's going to bring down the violence at the moment. But however, you got to look at the bigger picture, which is the damage it caused with the reputation of policing, the damage that it caused, and the trust and building trust with the police and the community. So I wasn't a fan of stop and frisk. There's other ways. There's other policing tactics to use, but stop and frisk really was. I had family members. I was young growing up, experienced stop and frisk. My son experienced stop and frisk. Plenty of my friends, family members. So I was not a big fan of it.
It's interesting you should say that. Transformed, changed from New York coming down to Baltimore. Martin O'Malley saw this. Carl Stokes and Lawrence Bell couldn't get their sugar honey iced tea together. Both of them in the race. O'Malley came, and he didn't split the black vote. He got more than both of them combined. Blacks, politically, we didn't have our sugar honey iced tea together. And so he won.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember black women, black mothers complained to him, do something about the violence. Schmoke had just left, 12 years. Although Schmoke was talking about the decriminalization of drugs, and this is 2000, and now we're starting to see something like that 25 years later. Marilyn Mosby, big ups to her, despite the challenges she had. Looking for a more civil Baltimore. But my son and my father both had experience, and my son was just a little boy, 4 years old, but he had already seen the effects of people getting locked up for sitting on their steps, getting locked up for petty nuisance crimes like urinating. Matter of fact, I was just telling the story. Kevin Clark was the commissioner. I'm on my bicycle coming back from WEAA. That's a good 6-7 mile hike from Northeast Baltimore. And Bug-Eye, that's his name, Officer Weems. He's still over there in the Western. He and his partner jump out on me like I robbed a bank. I'm pedaling in the rain. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're riding a bicycle without a headlight on Pennsylvania Avenue. Bug-Eye, bugged out. I called for a protest in front of City Hall. Then working for O'Malley was Tony White, black man. And he called me up and said, please don't call a protest. What can we do to appease you? And he called me down to City Hall. I told him me and the elders wanted to meet with Kevin Clark. And so we met with Police Commissioner Kevin Clark. And we had a heart to heart. And I think things started to slow down. I know Kevin Clark did some things, they did some things. But I like Kevin Clark because he was right after Teflon Don, Ed Nas. Hey, look, when the book stops here. Like I like Tough Tony though. I like him because that's who he really is.
Yeah, I was a big fan of.
He was a cop's cop, according to your peers, who would be down in the trenches with the troops.
Yeah. I was a big fan of, still am a big fan of Ed Norris and Kevin Clark, both of them. And the story you're saying, you're right. When zero tolerance was on the table and stop and frisk was on the table, yeah, you're right. There was some awful laws that policing that we in police were enforcing, urinating in public, taking something out your pocket and missing the trash can and hitting the street and getting locked up for it. Even the one you said, pedaling a bicycle. There was a law. I'm not sure if it's still on the books. I think it's probably one of the most egregious things in Baltimore City that we used to enforce was riding your bicycle on the sidewalk. In theory, according to the law, you're not supposed to ride your bike on the sidewalk. So we would
No,
see
no,
somebody
it was
riding their bike.
propelling a bicycle within the city limits without a headlight.
Oh, that's part of it too. There's a couple. Your bike's got to have a horn or whistle or something like that. It's a bunch of those little laws that pertain to bicycles, and they, quite frankly, it was just terrible. It was one of the terrible things that was on the books at the time.
Huge transition. Then Sheila came in. The one thing she did do, all right, Mr. Bonaparte, you making me dizzy over there. You gotta keep that camera still. But Sheila.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The audio.
Okay, Sheila quelled a lot of that, and we really appreciated that about her administration. She tried a different approach, a more civil approach. Everybody remembers that. It was much more civil. You don't have to do all of this craziness. She pulled in the drug dealers, the people who were already had violent charges on their jacket. I don't know if they had a list to say, and my understanding from Commissioner Height, and he's Commissioner Height because he went to Indianapolis and became commissioner. Rick Height said they pulled him in a room and said, look, we know you, and you. If you don't get your sugar, honey, iced tea together, you're going away for a long time. So it was a more civil approach. So great segue. First, welcome to the show, Mr. Andre Bonaparte.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good. Mr. Bonaparte, what's the name of your company?
So our company is Frontline Management Services. We are a public safety, clean and safe company. We've been in Baltimore really since 2012, but kind of really rolled out in 2015.
Okay. Where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from New York, but I've been here in Baltimore. So
it's okay. I love New York.
Good. I love New York also. So I'm originally
what borough?
from New York.
Are you from the city or are you from the upstate?
Yeah. No, not upstate. I was reared in the Bronx, actually, in the Boogie Down.
Boogie Down, okay.
Also lived in Long Island. Yes, sir. And also lived in Long Island for a short stint before coming here. I think like since 1979. So I've been here for a while, but yeah, the Bronx.
Well, both of you are going to be able to appreciate this conversation. I have a baby cousin who is a retired NYPD, and he's from Brooklyn.
Okay.
But he moved to Strong Island. I understand that's like from West Baltimore to Owens Mills, kind of like.
Mm-hmm. Probably bigger.
You're not buying that, Mr. Bonaparte. Now, let me tell you, on this show, we've had one of your New York colleagues before. You may have known Corey Pegues. So Corey Pegues, he was a member of the Supreme Team when he was a young guy, but he ended up being a detective, and he's been an advocate for NY police officers in his adult life. So he's been on both sides. He has a book out, so we've talked with him about the book. But you guys have seen tough corners. Penn North, Freddie Gray, Penn North ain't been the same. Slinging dope, coke, rock all day, every day. Police car pull up, and we see it down the Avenue Market. You know, they got rocks, dopes, cokes, cross street, weed. Got businesses. One business, Legends, they've been closed down. The police, Western District say that they are harboring drug dealers. Man, them people go in there to sell chicken. Now, they are from the Middle East, and they ain't got no problem fighting, but the onus has been put on them to keep the drug boys off in the dope triangle. They sell more dope there than in Afghanistan. But before they closed, they were charged with paying $3,500 for security per week because there were people who felt like they were the cause of the coke, dope, and crack. And then the thing is, they've shut Legends down, and those people responsible for that are still on the corner. They're still there. Police parking their car. Now, I got to say this one last thing. We had 3 officers. One, retired Officer Chuck Lee, we had Officer Evan Anderson, and we had Officer Iris Martin. When they were stationed inside the Avenue Market, no problem. Yes, dope was sold all day, every day, but there was respect. I remember 42nd and 8th up in New York. That was wide open. I'm talking about back in the 80s. It was wide open, the deuce. There was no stopping it. People are going to sell dope, and they're going to be good cops that get turned out. They're going to be drug dealers that turn confidential informants. We've seen it. We understand the game. We understand the money. And I got to throw in this last caveat. Here in Baltimore, there was a guy named Chief Ed Fox, and he led the first wiretap. And it went from Baltimore all the way to the New York Stock Exchange. And so we know that drugs are deeply inculcated into our community. And we got to do something. If we're going to transform West North Avenue, big ups to WNADA, Chad, Teresa, and the rest of the crew. And when I saw you, big brother Darryl, you know, it's kind of like when we first rendezvoused just after Freddie Gray. I have a lot of high hopes.
Absolutely, and I appreciate Don. And that was the first time I actually met you, man. And I said, man, this brother definitely has it going on. And I felt bad that I didn't know you in the beginning of my, policing career. But when you talk about Pennsylvania Avenue, North Avenue, that corridor right there, Pensy and Lawrence, I started policing, and Andre came on before me. I was in the academy in 1989, in 1988. I was on the streets in late 1989, and in 89, 90s, and Pennsylvania Avenue. It has always been tough. I spent time in narcotics, and we used to set up a shop. We used to set up and watch the shops up there from 4 o'clock in the morning. And you're right, it's just a tough place for us in the West Side. And I have the Black Knight Company, and I'm really enthusiastic about working on this WNADA grant. And like you said, shout out to Chad and Senator Hayes and everybody. I appreciate them for giving me the opportunity, given my circumstances. But it's really great where my company is going to come in, and the guy you just mentioned, my guy Chuck Lee, he's part of my team.
Is he?
And yes, absolutely.
Man, that's you got a grant, you got a home run hitter right there.
Yeah, home run hitter. We were up on the avenue the other day. We started an assessment. So we're looking at crime prevention through environmental design, and it's really easy. It's like four pieces to crime prevention through environmental design. It's natural surveillance, natural access, territorial reinforcement, and maintenance. I know you're trying to write that down, Donnie, but I can repeat it again if you need to. But natural surveillance, that talks about increasing the visibility to deter crime and criminals. Natural access is increasing natural access. Natural control is guiding movement to prevent crime. Territorial reinforcement, number 3, is just ownership of your business, of your home, of your place, and social control of that. And then the last piece is the maintenance. And I know Andre's organization is fabulous, but the maintenance part is that, you make sure that you have a dedicated team on a regular schedule that comes in and cleans up an area, because people want to know that it's livable and it deters crime. There's data that deters crime. Mm-hmm. And this whole this whole SEPTED concept that we're doing for WNADA, it's been around. It's nothing new. In policing, we kind of did it narrowly growing up through the ranks as young officers, but it was around since the 70s, where you had a criminologist from Florida come in and really started evaluating the theories behind it. Those 4 theories that I mentioned. And then there was a architect who came in and says, well, hey, listen, let's steal some of those concepts when we're building buildings and building downtowns and building communities. Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, how about we put some of these SEPTED concepts into play? And then it took like a backseat in the 80s, because in the 80s, Donnie, you remember when there was broken windows theory, and the broken windows theories set policing back, because it was those things you're talking about, lock somebody up that's pissing, lock somebody up that's loitering, lock somebody up that's littering, because the theory behind it is that it's going to prevent the bigger crime. So policing kind of like stepped away from it in the 80s, and then in 2000 it picked up traction, particularly in Florida. And if you go to any city, any Tampa, Orlando, any of those major cities in Florida, every single new construction, every single new design has to go through that SEPTED, those SEPTED principles. They build it into the government, where they have to hit these certain benchmarks.
Mr. Bonaparte, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think Darryl is absolutely spot on with that, and I would add that that in one of the particular areas, not just deceptive design as well, but another thing that kind of corresponded with a real crime wave in the city was when the crack epidemic kind of hit. So, the deceptive principle, there was a more kind of urgency kind of response that was kind of generated in law enforcement, which led to, the policing tactics that we were discussing earlier. So, I think there's kind of been an evolution, and I think we're coming back home now. And I think, we're encouraged about what WNADA is doing here, and what we think the chances of really finally revitalizing West Baltimore at the epicenter there. When Darryl was the commissioner there, and I remember just talking to him all of the time about it, because we used to look at the hard data. West Baltimore at that particular time was generating around 46% of the violent crime in the city. So we knew that West Baltimore was really the key of any type of law enforcement strategy that really needed to happen there, but it needed to be done responsibly. And I would also say that Darryl and I are students. We both came on the department back in the 80s. We are students of community policing philosophies, and those are the type of designs that we're going to implement over here in the WNADA community, to do it responsibly with a holistic approach, inclusive of the community, understanding the challenges there. The people who are indigenous to the community obviously need to be taken into account of there. But at the same time, we need to make progress in certain aspects. We have EB, who's just on the line here, and what his group is doing over there. We're really excited about that, because they've had a lot of success throughout the city and what they're doing there in quelling violence. And, like you said, Mr. Glover, that things are occurring there all of the time. We know that there is a drug epidemic there, and things like that that's going there. But that's inserting people within the community who know the community, know the players, and things like that can help quell the violence. And then obviously placing them, getting those resources around, whether it's from the city or local partners or whoever we need to engage to really identify what those problems are, and then deal with those issues in a way that is responsible and is also what the community at large wants.
Let me just say, I'm proud of both of you gentlemen, Darryl and Andre, because how many times, especially I think of Chuck Lee, how many times do we all black men on here, do black people, black men get to retire and then start a business? How many times do we get to go from working for somebody to working for ourselves? And not just in law enforcement, but in anything. And how often do we get to take our expertise and then become entrepreneurial? So kudos. When I think of Chuck Lee and all that he put out there on the line, I remember the day he retired. We had a some cake for him, but no one can truly thank you for. I mean, every day you go out, there's a war. And then you mentioned the crack epidemic. I was heavily involved on the wrong side, smoking up everything that they were selling. Rocks, dopes, cokes, a horrible time. But I've come to a point to understand how God is able. But I also think back, I bet you don't know what the number was the day that Ronald Reagan was elected. The number in Baltimore was 666. And damn if he wasn't the devil, because Freeway Rick and all of them cats, that crack thing, they was, we grew up powder, cocaine, heroin, people who shot dope, they were around the corner of Warwick Avenue, not far from Penn North, up by Coppin. But when that crack thing hit, man, it was like a virus, like one of those futuristic movies, and it brought out the criminal in people that we had no idea was in us, because that thing hits your brain like that, and you want more, and so the stealing becomes creative, the lying becomes creative, the break-ins become creative, and it just, man, and some people never come back. So I'm truly a living miracle and glad to be on this side of the law. Eric Brown, welcome to the show, man. Unmute yourself. How you doing?
I'm fine. How you doing, Mr. Glover?
I'm doing good. Tell them about yourself. You got the Peace Corps?
The Peace Team.
The Peace Team.
Yes, sir.
What's the Peace Team?
Yeah. We're an organization that does violence interventions, violence prevention, and mentoring through the city, different parts of Baltimore City, if not all of it. Wherever we called upon, we coming.
You got that Baltimore drawl a little bit. You from Baltimore?
Born and raised.
Yeah, see, New York. We know New York. This ain't New York. This Baltimore. We know if you don't say Baltimore, we know you ain't from here.
That's so, okay. We all brothers.
We all brothers, no question. I love New York. But North and Pulaski, do you remember what happened in North and Pulaski back in the day?
Nah.
It was like the first episode where somebody pulled out a machine gun and they sprayed.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That has never been forgotten. My grandma lived around the corner, but now you have something in that very same 2100 block of West North Avenue called Citywide Youth Development. And that's the home of Made in Be More Clothing and Frozen Desert Sorbet. Brother Rashid Aziz is just opposite P&M. Now, I got to tell you, this is a real West Baltimore story. I guess it was about 1979. A kid I went to school with, his daddy hit the number. And he was like, yay, right inside P&M bar. Yay, hit the number. A dude shot him, took his ticket, walked down the street. Police shot him. He shot the police. I watched 3 people get shot in all of 45 seconds right there in the 2100 block of West North Avenue. You got Fireside, and then you got P&M. So in that block, 2100 block, 2200 block, an otherwise calm neighborhood full of homeowners, you still got some madness right there. North and P. Are you ready to transform North and P? North and Pulaski?
Absolutely.
How do we do it?
Well, we do it through relationships. That's how we do most of our work. We do it through relationships and by messaging and mediating. And so by relationships, we let's just take that, like you said, that incident right there is still talked about today. And actually the young man who used that assault rifle just came home.
Wow.
Yeah, he just came home this year. But he a different kind of brother now, right? And so when we go in those type of areas, we call on him. And brothers like him like to use their voice, to use their influence in a positive way now. Reggie Gross was also part of that case, if you remember. So, you know.
I was a little boy. I'm 59. You a little older than me?
I'm a little younger than you. like
I was in the street, but not in the street. I was really trying to go to college. Got a little sidetracked.
Good stuff.
But I remember now. I remember Big Gary used to run that area around there. There was a dude, officers. There was a dude on the 2100 block of West North Avenue. Some people would say bum. I don't like that word. He was financially challenged, but his name was Penitentiary. I mean, it was a throwback to one of them Spike Lee movies, man. The old dude on the corner named Penitentiary, and there was no need to ask why they call you Penitentiary. But he was a living lesson of what you do not want to do.
Right.
Okay. But I do remember Reggie Gross, his name, and other names. So with returning citizens, I mean, we've had on this show Mr. Rudy Williams. We've had Michael Austin. He did 27 years. There are many people that did 2, 3, 4 decades.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying that they can contribute to the transformation of West North Avenue?
Yeah, everybody can help. You know, everybody can help. Everybody got to do their part. You know, and that's how it really gets done when we all just realize that we just a piece to the puzzle. That is no heroes in this game. We won't play hero ball. Everybody do their part, and we work together. That's what's getting done in the city now, and that's what will continue to have the city looked upon in a good light.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you one thing, Mr. EB. Can you set that camera still so you ain't gotta hold it?
Yeah, I think I can.
Yeah. Just have it situated, Mr. Commit. What I call you? Shit, Commissioner.
You can call me Darryl, Donnie. You can call me Darryl, bro.
I believe you give me the highest rank that they achieve. So, Darryl, is getting the community involved a part of, and you gave me, was there an abbreviation for the 4? Natural surveillance, natural access, you said septic?
It's called CEPTED, so it's crime prevention through environmental design.
Crime prevention
Through environmental design. So the acronym is CEPTED, CP-TED.
So what do we got to design for West North Avenue to help it? And how far do we have to extend north and south of North Avenue?
Well, let me say this, and I'm gonna answer that as precise as possible. Let me just say this real quick about EB. Is that I'm not sure if he's still there. I know it's a little technical.
Yeah, he's on audio. Yeah,
okay, let me say this about him is that I worked another very similar initiative in the Upton community, Wanda Bass, Jules, and everybody. And we did Pensy from the 2700 block all the way down to Dolphin Street. EB's team was out there. Okay, I saw them. They were out there every day. I see EB's team down in Fells. I see his team all over the place. They get a lot of respect no matter where they go. Okay, two things is that number one is that in policing, and Andre can say this in policing, like EB's team and law enforcement, we have the same goal in mind, but I hate to use this word, it's a shame that we have to be on these parallel streets or these parallel paths for the same objective. Now with WNADA and what we did in Upton, it's not parallel streets anymore. It's the same street, same goal, it's the same street. The other thing I would like to say is that with EB's team is that Andre and I spent decades looking at data-driven policing, looking at the dots on a map to see where the crime was going to occur, looking at the time probabilities. We stayed up in the middle of the night calling each other 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Look at this, look at that, look at this. I'm gonna tell you the interesting thing and the most profound thing about EB's team is that the work he does, you can't look at that on a map. You can't look at that on a computer. You can't look at the results and say 20% reduction, this reduction, that increase, because you can't account for the things. You don't know how many things his guys prevented. I mean, I can tell you what they did in Upton and the hours that they put in, and that had a tremendous effect. And I want to say probably more than 75, 80% of the reductions in violence in that footprint where we work. So shout out to him. To answer your question about CEPTED, Charles and I, last 2 weeks ago, I think the first, second, and the third, we walked Pensy and North all the way down to the 31, 3200 block of North Avenue. We walked down the odd side, walked back up the even side. We assessed vacants, we assessed buildings, we assessed landscaping. We assess a lot of positive and negative activity generators in that community. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But we're going to come in there and we're going to make these recommendations based on what we see in terms of lighting. We're up there next week looking at lighting. We're going to look at these storefronts, looking at best practices, saying, hey, listen, the best practice says that your store front, the front window shouldn't have more than 15% of signage on there. Your lighting in your store should consist of X, Y, and Z. And a lot of this CEPTED approach that they evaluate in other cities, like in, I think it was Houston, Dallas, and there's another city in California that I can't think of the name of right now. but they introduced these septic models, and these businesses agreed to sign up on it. And of all the businesses that agreed, there was like an 80% reduction in violence. So those are the same things that we're going to try and do. We don't talk a lot about traffic patterns when you're talking about crime prevention, but that weighs in a lot, believe it or not. You know, like what traffic calming devices are present. And motorists don't like traffic calming. I've been to enough
Hell
meetings
no.
that
I'll be the
they
first
don't
one
like
to
it.
tell you. North and
But
Mount
listen,
Royal, man, they got it shut
but
down.
Donnie, people automatically assume it's a traffic, a speed bump or a hump, which they're two different things based on height and of each. But something like a speed table at the intersection of Pensy and North, where it slows motorists down, so it allows the community to see a person or a car, and it plays a role in someone's mind who is doing something that I got to slow down in this corner.
Did that
And the
work at
likelihood of
42nd and 8th? Did that work at 125th and Lennox? Come on, honestly.
Well, they did a lot. They
Huh?
they actually did a lot to those streets. Look at the traffic patterns that they did in those same locations you're talking about. Look at 8th Avenue. Look at 34th Street. They did a lot of those same patterns. They changed the traffic patterns, and
Right.
that slows crime down. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
So a street that might have been one way going this way, you'll flip it, make it go the other way.
No,
Right.
streets that were two ways, they flipped streets that were one way. They made these patterns. In New York, they don't allow, what is it, the avenues of America. It used to be you used to be able to drive on both sides.
Right.
Man, it's shut down. It's like a
One way.
outside veranda. Yeah, it's one way. It's outside veranda because the idea of this whole concept I'm trying to say is that it's more eyes on the streets,
Right.
and that
And
puts more
can I
eyes on the
add to
streets.
that? Can I add to that? So I will say that I know, and I know Chad's not on the line, but I do know that they are looking at the traffic for the entire project area as
Mm,
well. There's
that's
definitely
awesome.
been conversations with vendors about that and doing studies, working with the state and the city along those lines too. Because as Darryl said, like this is everything. Like when you to take on a project like this, you need to bring everything in, all of the resources that you can. And what Eric is speaking of, also from his end, is what are we really talking about? We're really talking about a human capital investment. Right. So it's not just, like kind of like what Eric is doing there, like Darryl said, those behind the scene things that are unmeasurable, but you know that you're getting some sort of success from them. It's also talking about like how do we get people placed into the right type of environment to really help their needs, whether it's hunger, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's just being able to get a job here in Baltimore City or anywhere else. And obviously having working with workforce development programs and things like that are going to be paramount. And more importantly, even than that, and one of the things that we did in East Baltimore that is just tremendously successful is that, we're talking about, Eric was in our office yesterday or 2 days ago, and we were talking and stuff like that. Even like the members of the team that we're creating over here in West Baltimore, they're coming from the community of West Baltimore. They're coming from the neighborhood. People are going to see people who they identify with, who they've known throughout the community getting a job. I had an
That's
employee
huge.
yesterday. I was talking to him out on the street on Wolf Street yesterday, and I told him he's a young brother. He was incarcerated for the period. He's back out trying to change his life. We give individuals those type of opportunities and chances, give them some training. But I told him, I said, this is a job. This is not your career. So we talked to him extensively about, okay, but what is it that you want to do? What type of training can we help you with? Whether you wanted to get into a good friend of mine, God bless his soul, Mr. Johnson, Edwin Johnson, talked about like everybody doesn't need to go to college for a degree. There's
Edwin
some people
Johnson
that
said that me and him used to fight all the time.
no, that's one of my mentors.
Carl Stokes' his best friend.
Yeah, very good friends. Carl as well. But
You ain't know Edwin unless you had an argument with him. Seriously, he just
well, yeah, we used to have our debates and stuff like that.
yeah, right.
But you know how everyone is. But it's important. Like those type of things are important when you're building a holistic approach for a community. And again, what does the community want? Looking at the real needs of the community and transformation. So with Darryl's piece and the septic design, when you're looking at public safety and lowering crime and making a place more livable, more workable, and stuff like that, and really entertaining for a community, all those aspects need to be brought in. Pennsylvania Avenue is a main thoroughfare, main artery into the city, from the county all the way straight through downtown, right? So, we Eric and I talked about this yesterday, is that, there are challenges there, but look, we're really excited about it. We think that we're going to have an impact in doing these things. It's going to take work, and it's going to take a lot of support identifying what those key resources are that is going to be needed. The city's certainly going to be needed. I'm speaking to the senator about that yesterday. So, we talked about all of these other things that we need to kind of pull in to really make this a real successful venture.
I'm glad you have given me a chance to pose a question, because I'm seething over here.
Seething.
I'm seething.
Okay.
Do y'all live in West Baltimore?
I don't live in West Baltimore. I did live in. My family is from East Baltimore and North East Baltimore. But I did not. Darryl, I don't know if you did, Darryl. I don't.
Okay.
No.
I want to present something to you.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time in West North Avenue, West North, the whole community. Come on back, Mr. Brown. Stop disappearing. I need some homeboy backup right now. Right. So I just asked them, do they live in West Baltimore? So you talk about traffic calming. No, I don't like bike lanes. Ain't nobody riding no damn bikes. But right there at Coppin State, and we didn't ask for this. I grew up around the corner, Moreland Avenue, Baker, blah, blah, blah. They made single lane traffic right there at Coppin. And you're going to tell me a real scientific criminologist name for why they did the traffic calming at Coppin, single lane. Point number 2. From North and Mount Royal, sometimes all the way back to North and Monroe, single lane traffic is backed up so far early in the morning, God forbid even rush hour, and then that one block from North and Park to North and Mount Royal, some genius, some genius who I know don't live there makes it single lane traffic. And so living in West Baltimore, you just trying to get to 83. You trying to get to one of the main thoroughfares to get to work. And then some brainiac, some Einstein will say, well, not everybody in West Baltimore has a car. Okay, but we do know Uber and taxis and blah, blah, blah. Not everybody in West Baltimore has a car. Well, we ain't all catching the MTA, because the MTA, the number 13, slow as hell. It's like, okay, you slowed it down, but we feel taxed.
Mm-hmm. Can I answer that?
I'm not finished. I'll let you talk. We feel taxed for living in West Baltimore. It's like you're paying more for car insurance, because West Baltimore is not like Harford County for car insurance. And then you get taxed with time. You got to spend this extra time getting out of the neighborhood and getting back in the neighborhood. And you have some hostility. By the time you finally get some freedom, I have an attitude like, get the hell out the damn street. And then I'm bringing that anger and bad attitude right back to the community or to work or what have you. You got the floor.
Again, I mean, I'm unsure of how that came about, to be honest with you. I do believe, though,
Brian Dorsey, bike lanes.
Okay.
Big time millions for lobbying, and ain't nobody in West Baltimore. We got kids, you got parents. You ain't riding your parents or your kids on no damn bike.
Right.
You driving them like everywhere else. And it's like we feel taxed with money and with time.
Certainly. I think, though, also, again, getting back to my point earlier, was that, in a limited meeting that I had been involved in, I do know that there is going to be a larger comprehensive study of all of that. And I think another part of that, too, is that having the inclusiveness of the community involved in that planning, I think is paramount. And I think that WNADA presents an opportunity so that the community is involved, as not just the city planners and DOT and all those others. So now
city planners who are white, maybe one black in that whole damn office in a majority black city, crying damn shame. And you got Morgan State with transportation who ought to be at the table, but some of them on that traffic calming tip too. But it's
Well,
a lot of
again,
times white boys who don't live in our neighborhood. And then the
again,
synchronization of lights. Oh my God. It's like you
this is
stop at every light.
yes, sir. But this is an opportunity now to rethink all of those strategies and all those planning. And WNADA, I believe, brings those opportunities to the table. So we're going to need obviously community input, community involvement. Listen, it's the communities who are there, like you said, whether they're going to work, coming home, playing, or visiting, or what have you. That is the real foundation of all of this. WNADA, I believe, presents that opportunity with this planning and working with these partners. And the meeting that I was at, the board was diverse. There were a lot of community leaders there, and as well as people from the state, the city as well. Really trying to rethink and reimagine what this may look like. And I just think that it's promising. I will say that similar kind. I mean, I don't know whether East Baltimore development is another kind of similar type of project area. It has, I think the lessons can be learned from what happened over there as well when you're building something like this over here. So,
yeah, money. EBDI, Cheryl Washington, Marie Washington, Dr. Washington, great at getting money. And so, Eric Brown, when you think of the black butterfly, East Baltimore, West Baltimore, you think of the white L, goes from Johns Hopkins University down to the harbor over to East Harbor. East Baltimore, West Baltimore has not seen investment, has not seen money. When Freddie Gray happened, CNN looking around like, wow, the riots did this. No, benign neglect did this. How do we bring in these successes from EBDI, from other places? How do we transform West North Avenue?
Hey, listen, man. I don't know how we do that, Daddy. As far as you talk about the look, the landscape of it, I think I've seen what WNADA is doing up there. I've seen the diagram for what it's going to look like when we finish, and I think it's going to look amazing. I think you ain't going to believe you in Baltimore next time when you come up on West North Avenue when these folks are finished doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's long overdue, and we welcome it. Any thoughts on traffic calming and the lack of lights and synchronization and all of these damn planners? Look, check this out, guys. Planners came to Fremont and Lawrence. I get a phone call, email, hey, come to this meeting. They wanted to take the traffic light from Fremont and Lawrence. Now, I understand, I have learned that you take that out, you put in a roundabout or something like that. But what gets me is these white guys, because Baltimore's the home of segregation. Let's just call a spade a spade. When you bring these white guys, they're having a meeting at the church. It's not like they start off with prayer. They just figure they come to the church. They don't even bring lunch or food. They got masks on and real distant. And they're not asking you for your feedback. They're telling you what they want to do in your neighborhood. They put up some surveillance camera, and then they come back and read you some data and says, well, this suggests this. And it's real. It's Baltimore. It's a 65% black city, 75% black and brown, home of segregation. Going back to 1910, when Mayor J. Barry Mahul introduced this ordinance, said that blacks couldn't move into white neighborhoods and whites couldn't move into black neighborhoods. What about undoing these decades of segregated mentality? How about bringing in a black planner or somebody who speaks our language and is not afraid of us and knows to start off a meeting in church with prayer?
Yeah, well, if I can jump in there really, really quick, Donnie, I know EB was probably going to answer that. You directed that at him, but I think the point that Andre and I'm sure EB would agree with us on this is that with this WNADA team, with this public safety team, it's very unique, and everything that you're saying, it resonates with us, and we believe. And I'll use an example or several examples to get to my point. I sat on a national consensus team when we were working at when I was doing a fellowship, and we were looking at the use of force policy for the nation. And we created this policy. Guess who we forgot to bring to the table? Community and the officers working the streets.
Yeah.
Right? We worked on in Baltimore the body worn camera project, and guess what? We forgot to bring those who were actually going to be wearing it to the table and have a conversation on what is going to work for them, what works best for them. All right. What we're saying, we're not going to follow those same mistakes. I mean, this is public safety. We're not going to follow those same mistakes because, we already are planning to have these community listening tours where we're not telling them, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're listening,
Mhm.
and we want to listen. And as a result of us listening, what is it that we're going to take away from those meetings and we're going to implement?
And
This
present
project
back to them.
of and present back to them. Yeah,
Right.
these recommendations on the landscape and traffic patterns and traffic lights and all that stuff. We need them at the table. I mean, your voice is strong, Donnie, and you speak for a lot of people. We want to hear those same voices because we want to be able to put that down on a paper and then say, hey, listen, we were going to come up with a plan A, but based on the feedback that we got to come with up with a plan. We got to come with a plan B. I think this challenge, however, behind all that is getting the people from the community and not the big people making the big bucks. It's mom and dad and the young men and the young women that live in the community to come in to these meetings and have a conversation with us. And we ask them, what is it that you are looking for? How can we help? And we're just going to sit back and listen and take notes.
I recommend getting block captains.
Mm.
Every block, get a block captain.
That's a great program. We're
I love
actually
that.
reinitiating that in East Baltimore right now. The block captain, and also enrolling in a recruitment drive for the block watcher program also. So that's you're absolutely right on that. Could you imagine if you have a block captain in a residential community on every block in the city, right?
And back them up with
They
resources.
can back them up with resources, right? And then they all meet once a month, right? They all meet once a month to talk about things within their community, and then from their community, they go up and talk to, in this case, in East Baltimore, is whether it's the Southeast District or the Eastern District, or in some instances the Central District, because the way it's kind of fragmented now. But
Mhm.
that's kind of like the flow of information, because when, and Darryl will tell you, when you go to a commander's meeting, community meeting at the district, who's there? It's the community presidents. It should be the community presidents, community leaders, but it also should be in that meeting. It should be the city. DOT, the heads of whether it's health services or whatever, to talk about things that's going on within the community, and then those block captains or block presidents bring that information back to their community.
Mr.
It's the flow of
Bonaparte, I
information.
got to give you something else. There's a very important thing you got to have at these meetings: food.
Yes, there will be food.
Food. People
I-
are hungry. What
right.
Freddie Gray happened,
Mm,
churches, bringing in the food bank. There's a Hurricane Katrina, Freddie Gray sense of urgency
mm,
every day. So
right.
some people come to community meetings just to eat. So
Right.
you might even link in the food bank and give it. People are hungry. It's
Right.
nothing but liquor stores.
Right.
Mm.
We haven't even talked about the food desert,
Food
Derek
deserts. Yep.
Brown.
Yeah.
I'm not eating no meat out of Mondama from Shoppers. I get one of them subs from Mama Lucia's, but I'm not eating no meat because it got too much. They got to be checked. And between Lexington Market and Mondawmin, it's just no damn food. I go to Owens Mills, and you ain't got to drive. You catch the train out to Owens Mills. Eric Brown, help me out. Where are you in all of this, dude? How do we get those dudes who are left? Because that's what happened to all of the drug dealers. They died. They got locked up. Even my Park Heights, they waited till all the black people are gone. Now they building new houses. How do we, Darryl, incorporate the dude who's still on the street? How do we get him a job?
Yeah, well, I think when we were doing and still doing the Upton project, uh, that's what we had. We had resources available at the fingertips. It wasn't that you had to dial a telephone number and be placed on hold for 10 minutes. EB's team was out there. We Are Us are out there. We had social services out there. We were helping people get resumes done. There was a one-stop shop for everything that they needed. And I think that's the same thing. And it's the same goal that we're going to do for the WNADA.
Come on, Eric Brown, EB. Oh, now sound. We can't hear you.
Eric.
Come on, Andre.
No, Darryl's absolutely right. I think, also, tapping into those resources quickly, not this long, drawn out, arduous process to get something done. I think boots on the ground, there are groups that are out there, Living Classrooms, ROCA, all types of different programs. And even private, we've tapped into private companies just in getting people from doing the jobs where what our company does, and getting them into becoming carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and things like that, working into security. But I think one of the key points to Darryl's point was, hey, listen, people need jobs now. And this thing with hunger that you touched on is very, very important. I think, look at the squeegee kid pandemic that occurred, right? When you talk to these young people who are out there doing these things and stuff like that, and yeah, in many ways it's lucrative business, but at the end of the day, what are we really talking about? People being able to put food on the table and provide for their families. In many cases, particularly within our community, that young man is the breadwinner of the family and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at holistically and transparently when creating a model like that's happening right here in West Baltimore.
EB.
Yes, can you hear me?
Good. How do we get the young man who's on the corner a part of the solution? Safe Streets, $650 million. Nobody knows why they need that much damn money. But if they can get a cat employed, we're happy. And if he has a 70% chance of no longer going back to selling dope, we're happy. At the same time, there's so many who are not there. I mean, the West Baltimore we grew up in is a different West Baltimore today. It's faster, like the NFL. It's faster.
Well, Peace Team, we got 35 employees. 31 of them are ex-cons.
Returning citizens. We got to be politically correct. Don't get my ass whipped because you call them that.
Okay.
I got people in New York, Victor Pate. He's a returning citizens guru. He has set me down and taught me the language. Do not say that.
Okay, so we are returning citizens. So even though a lot of us citizens, when we return, we didn't know where the hell we was at. And I get, just for instance, me, I've done 27 years. When I came home, I received no help. I received no housing. I received no job. So, they don't treat us like returning citizens, but nevertheless, they treat us like ex-cons. So I
hope that we give you love, the love that we're supposed to share with our brothers.
Yeah, well, after I traveled through the city and I just got to meeting people, and man, I got more help than I ever needed, man. And so I just appreciate just the people that I met through on this journey. But you talking about these brothers, I don't think they could have made it at a job anywhere else than other with us, because that's how they, man, like, we understood what each other needed. And so, I clearly understood what it takes for a person who's just done 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in prison and then come home to nothing or nobody and definitely need employment. But he hasn't had the job training. He haven't had the development. So
he mentions two things that come to mind. One, how do we get to the brothers and sisters? America has 5% of the world's population. This is the one argument me and my baby cuz, who was a cop, we had. America has 5% of the world's population, with 25% of the world's incarcerated persons, 38.8% look like those of us on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most incarcerating nation on earth. We got damn near as many incarcerated people as China, a country, 400 million. They got 1.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
We locked. It's business. It's big business. The prison industrial complex. How do we get to the brothers and the sisters before they come home? And then number two, my big question after Freddie Gray, and I know we going over, but when Freddie Gray happened, my big question, Darryl, was, you know how when they have a mass shooting in a white neighborhood and they say, oh, we're sending out mental health professionals to help the students wrap their brain around trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I felt when Freddie Gray happened, they should have had Winnebagos up and down North Avenue, up and down Monument Street, providing therapy. We are traumatized. Y'all traumatized. We're traumatized. These politicians who making rules that nobody really understands are traumatized because they trying to get to the next level and everybody's stepping on everybody, but ain't nobody looking at the people. Miss Susan need therapy. She done seen people out back West North Avenue alley slinging, tricking.
Yeah, Donnie, I think
I'm sorry.
to answer that question, I think we missed the mark with the Freddie Gray and the aftermath and the trauma that the community and the police department equally went through together. And I think that you're right. There should have been Winnebagos. There should have been, all these professionals, these sociologists, these psychologists, these medical professions that reached out and said, hey, collectively, let's all sit down and have these conversations. I know they were done afterwards, but I think the effect was not the same. I know I did something for the Western District when I was the chief of patrol. I took the entire district after Freddie Gray. I took the entire district offline. I got volunteers from other districts and units to come in and work patrol while we did a 2 or 3 day retreat, and listening to them at these retreats. They were hurting really, really bad. We went to the Ravens
Sergeant
Stadium.
Alicia White. We love that woman. That
Yeah,
woman was
yeah.
a hero. White
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
and somebody. I was thinking about writing the book because we coming up on 10 years. But they took this hero cop,
Yeah.
loved and revered, New Bethlehem Church right there in Cary and Pressman,
Mhm.
and they dragged her through the mud when the whole
They did.
world saw the white guy put the knee in his back, drag him by the belt loop to the paddy wagon. They threw Caesar under the bus. The paddy wagon driver tried to say that he gave a rough ride. People like Chuck Lee, Evan Anderson schooled me like, dude, that wasn't his MO. So they took an incident in a racially charged city like Baltimore. Blacks, whites, black butterfly, white L, and everybody
threw fire on
saw the white boy put the knee in it, but the black cops got put on Front Street
Yes.
and thrown under the damn bus. So now y'all were in the biggest pickle because black people ain't liking you and white cops ain't liking you or have abandoned you. So when something like Detective Suter, they tell me a cat from DC go out sideways in a West Baltimore alley, I'm saying that's bullshit because that don't happen. And I don't even cuss on this show, but we ain't buying that no more than we buying Robert Lee Clay, who was right-handed, gonna kill himself with his left hand. Baltimore got some trauma, some deep trauma that we gotta heal from. And the only way you get healed, just like an addict, you gotta identify the problem. And a lot of times the problem is that 600-pound gorilla.
Yeah, Donnie. Wow. Yeah, Robert Clay, rest in peace, man. He gave me my first job in Baltimore, man.
That man, last time I saw him, he knocked on my door. Here your money. He was a man's man, Andre. He was a man's man.
I know the legend.
I'm bringing it right to you. That's the kind, and that's what we grew up on, looking up to in the men who raised us.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Real men.
That's right.
Not these cupcakes out here.
That's right.
You can count on me, man. We got to get the brothers involved. The young kids at Pennsylvania and Lawrence, they really want to work. They don't want to smoke weed all day and looking over their shoulder. I've asked city government to engage them, to make them a part of the solution. I know that they would love to wear a suit and tie. I would imagine a suit and tie to go to the Center Club. Take them kids before you lock them up, before you've just thrown away the key. Buy them an outfit and take them to Capitol Grill. Take them to the Center Club. Let them see something. It's easy to throw them away. America does that.
Outside of their neighborhood. Right. Well, clearly, I think there's, as you know, just the data that you talked about. I mean, clearly, we as a nation aren't doing something correct. And getting back to your earlier point was that how can we begin to change this? I mean, I think obviously it starts in the family, even at the base level. I think education is paramount in all of this. Having good school systems, good other alternative type of things to get involved in, as opposed to other things that are illicit and lead to crime or what have you. So all those type of things have to kind of be a part in order for us as a black man, as a black family, and a resident, is that we have to begin to make those changes as best we can. So that's the only way we're going to get out of this.
I'm gonna give you one last fact. Sheila did a wonderful job, but the one thing she did that we can never forget, she took our Sandtown Winchester Community Center, gave it to Sharfstein. Sharfstein turned it into a homeless shelter. We don't have a community center in Sandtown. Above North Avenue, Greater Mondawmin, there's no community center. There's no meeting place. The recreation center, Eastwood Rec, we got a reunion coming up in August. That place saved our lives growing up. It gave us something to do. Lee and Jones, we don't have a rec at Lee and Jones. I know that might be beyond 100 yards from West North Avenue, but they used to be like in northern Utah. There used to be Utah Gardens. You could box and you could lift weights. The investment has gone to East Harbor. You go to East Harbor, it looks like another city. I'm like, wow. I didn't know so many people on scooters and Starbucks coffee. We drink Starbucks. We love Starbucks. Why I gotta go to East Harbor to get a Star? I'm saying white Baltimore gotta stop being so damn segregated and racist. I'm gonna give you a piece of history. I told you about the mayor, J. Barry Mahul. He was the father of segregation. There's a street that comes through West Baltimore. Now, I know you New Yorkers, you know about Seneca Village, makes you real proud. I know you know about Weeksville over in Brooklyn, makes you real proud. There's a street through West Baltimore named McMecken Street. It was named after George McMecken. He was a lawyer, and he had a brother-in-law named Ashby Hawkins, and they used to dig in J. Barry Mahul's ass and make him do right by black people. We've always had the goon squad, your preachers, strong preachers, real preachers, Reverend Dobson, people who are in the community. A lot of these preachers then got soft as cupcakes. They get a big old congregation. They move uptown. P.M. Smith will come to the hood. Now, he might use the N-word, but P.M. Smith will come to the hood. He comes to Pennsylvania and Lawrence. We need P.M. Smith on a regular. Pay him. He'll engage the people. We need preachers who are not afraid. Y'all mentioned we, our, us. Big ups to Brother Andrew Knox Muhammad, Dr. Andre Bunley, my god brother Bishop Kevia Elliott, Reverend Corey Barnes. Those and other guys, they come through Gilmore Homes, the projects. They come through Penn North. If we bring everybody to the table and give grandma some victuals to take back home, because sometimes grandma might be hungry. It's a food desert. Not everybody want fried chicken every day. Maybe they bring some rockfish, some stuffed rockfish. Tell them send it up. We like stuffed rockfish.
That's right.
Good point.
Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, Andre, you want to? I'll say this. I listened to Dr. Jenkins and Chad Williams, Director Williams from NADA. I listened to their piece the other day on one of the other news outlets, and when they talked about transformation and they talked about, economic development, they talked about transportation. Chad talked about a lot of those vacant homes. 56% of them are on the west side. I mean, there's a lot of work. It's encouraging for us, but we're grateful for this opportunity really to do something outside of the regular law enforcement. Andre and I retired. Um, we're looking at this opportunity and a community's perspective, versus a
Mhm.
law enforcement perspective.
Yeah, think that Daryl's spot on with that. I mean, for us, at least for me personally, I would say that and even what our business kind of deals with, like we like to work within our community, and we like to, to me, the human capital piece and seeing people matriculate from just getting, whether they're returning citizens into the community and giving them opportunities to be able to grow. I have a supervisor who was, he had a past like that. Now, he has a family. He's bought a house. He has 2 kids that have graduated from high school, and over the course of the years, being able to see him grow like that, and taking responsibility and learning and being accountable and stuff like that, to me, is personally rewarding. And there are countless kind of stories like that within our company. And it's kind of, if you listen to what EB is saying, when you're taking 31 people or 36 people that he has, from where they were to where they are now, eventually you're beginning to make change. And then and what's happening is that message begins to spread out. People begin to see that there's opportunity for them. And, again, connecting them with the resources, taking a very holistic approach, and obviously having effective communication from the community all the way up to the state house. I mean, that's very important. So again, like Darryl said, we're really excited about this. It's in our community, and we think that we can have some really success based on what we're hearing and what is programmed out for it in the future.
So I got to give you one last tidbit. So Senator Hayes, he's from Penn North. He grew up on Francis Street.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful neighborhood, but it's right off Whitelock. If you're from West Baltimore, Whitelock, the wreck in that area was John Eager Howard. John Eager Howard around Linden Avenue. They had the best basketball players from the West who had the best chance against East Baltimore. Muggsy Bogues, Reggie Lewis, Lafayette. Nobody beating them, but if anybody came close, it was John Eager Howard. So big ups to Senator Hayes, who has street cred.
Yep.
He can walk these streets.
Mm-hmm.
But on that note, I want to give you this tidbit. So when Freddie Gray happened, the president of Coppin at the time was Maria Thompson. And Darryl DeSousa, I remember Coppin was missing in action. They were nowhere to be seen. The leader, she had cancer at the time. Mm-hmm. So there was no way she could be engaged. Who contacted me was University of Maryland. Matter of fact, they invited us all down to College Park a couple of times to get feedback, listening sessions. They gave us bagels with cream cheese. We like the bagels with cream cheese, little lox, little smoked salmon.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet, but they became experts on our community. Morgan State, Coppin State, BCCC, these institutions of higher learning. The word says where there's no vision, the people perish.
Mm.
So Maria was, sickly at the time. And then there was a period where Coppin did not have a president. As a matter of fact, and I've told the story before, there was a time when they didn't have a president, and there was an effort to bring together University of Baltimore, BCCC, and Coppin. But Coppin didn't have a president at the time. And then in comes Dr. Jenkins. I just want to counter that with the 32 years when we had Dr. Calvin Burnett at Coppin. In his 32 years, he made it his business to walk. And he's still around. God rest his soul, live up in Carroll County. But he would walk, Darryl, from Coppin to the Inner Harbor and back every day. Do you know the street creds you get with that? And I'm saying a lot of times we're so academic, we're so accomplished. We have all of these credentials behind our names. But Malcolm X said you can't serve the people if you don't love the people. And one thing in Baltimore, we know people who are scared of us. We know people who deal with us at a distance. And we know people who embrace us and say, come on, we can fix this together. So I would just encourage you and encourage the team to be able to walk the streets, because nobody wants to deal with somebody you got to deal with them behind a plexiglass or at a distance, or you got to write them an email. You got to go see the people and bring the people together. That was the beauty of Dr. Burnett. If he walked from Coppin to the Harp, and I'm not saying Dr. Jenkins needs to walk, I'm not suggesting that at all, but I'm saying people can sense if you're scared of them, not you, but I mean the people we bring in. If it's a distance thing, or if we can't talk their language, Jesus would talk people's language. You know, when you're up in an academic institution, of course, you're going to use your best English and you're going to articulate and enunciate and pronounce every syllable. When you're in the hood, you might need to relax that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, say, yeah.
I mean,
How can people get in touch with you, Darryl DeSousa?
what's that, Donnie?
How can people get in touch with you if they want to be a part of the new? And I see you coming with your own term, WNADA. Okay, I like that. It's got a ring to it.
I like the WNADA. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hey, but listen.
But just tell Chad that North Avenue ain't the Avenue. Pennsylvania Avenue, the Avenue. We got to help him with that. Come on, Southeast DC.
Hey, I'm just the missus is trying to get me in tune with social media. My website is up, is operational, and in terms of getting a hold of me, me and Chuck, we walk up there. We still walk up there. We'll be walking up there Monday morning, all the way down to Pensy and North and Hilton. So I'm out and about. I've always been that way. You know that, Donnie. I've always been that way, not just as a police commissioner, as a young officer. I learned a lot more on the streets, getting out of my patrol car and walking in the neighborhoods. So that's where I'll be.
Well, you got Chuck Lee. That's my hero, man. It's one of my best friends. I trust him with my life. Good people. How about you, Mr. Bonaparte? What do I call you? Sergeant, Captain, Lieutenant, what?
Well, I'm a retired deputy commissioner.
Deputy commissioner,
yes, but
pardon my ignorance.
Yes, that's okay. I'm Andre. That's who I am now. I'm retired. Like Darryl
that's
said,
my brother's name. I can't mess it up.
Well, I got two nicknames. I got two nicknames that means don't tell them then, right?
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Darryl.
So Donnie, you can call him Bones, right? That's what we call him. Bones, we call him Dark.
You gotta be able to back up there. I ain't gonna talk smack.
we call him Dark Gable. So one of the two, you know.
Bones is good.
Listen, is a Rick Height someone we could get expertise from?
Hey, look, Rick has we grew up underneath Rick Height. I mean, Rick is a long-standing asset to Baltimore, to the Baltimore Police Department. You know, his historical sense of everything that's happened here and his relationships is absolutely, instrumental. We would certainly welcome I would, and I know personally, I know Darryl would as well, listening to any recommendations or thoughts that he may have. So yeah, I mean, listen, anyone who wants to help, we're open arms to it. I mean, if they're bringing something positive to the table, we should be listening to them, whether it's the community or whether it's the other resources or the other partners, whoever. We're all in this in order for this to be successful. But getting back to your other thing, so where we can be reached, our website is frontlinemanagementservices.com, and you can look up what we kind of do there. I said earlier, we are taking applications for the team that we're assembling over there in West Baltimore, and you can call our office at 410. Let me get it. I seldom use that number, 410-276-1520, and ask to speak to Miss Angela LaPrade. And Angela is also a former police administrator who's been working with me now since 2008. So we're taking applications. We're looking for some good people, men and women, to be part of that team that's over there. And we look forward to the opportunity and working with Darryl and his group and EB with his. I mean, you know, and obviously the WNADA team and Chad under his leadership and direction and the senator. You know, we really are very encouraged about what we think the possibilities are for West Baltimore.
Very special thank you to Governor Moore for $28 million to help fund WNADA.
Oh, Governor
and
Moore.
help provide opportunities for your business and mine. 276-1520, 410-276-1520. So you are hiring.
Yes, we are hiring. We are hiring immediately. We have some. We're taking applications, and you know, listen. And if you have, you know, and you have some, you know, some things in your background, we're open to that. So you know, we're
But
going to get
damn,
people
I could be
opportunities.
president with 34 convictions. I mean, yeah, I mean, brother can't get a job.
Right.
I'm not even going to ask you about last weekend. My God.
Don't get me on that one.
Nah, I ain't gonna do that. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Darryl,
please.
it's great to see you. Enjoy your
My
last
pleasure.
day, and then you know back to the grindstone. Pleasure to meet you, brother Andre.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you
if
for
I can be
inviting
of
us.
service, you just tell me. And we'd love to bring you back on the show. We'd love to bring the success stories on, especially young people who've transformed their lives. People have put time in on serving the devil, and then we getting on the other side and try to serve our community and build up things that that many of us took part in tearing down. So we appreciate you much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
so
Donnie.
much.
We appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.